Okay, I am fired up right now because I'm scared. So I think it's actually a really good time to talk about this because it's been a huge topic for me the last few months. I'm going through a bit of a transitional period. I just quit my job. I got broken up with a couple of months ago. There's been a lot of, my rat died. Like, there's been a lot of changes and things that would previously have triggered me so badly that I might go into an institution. I've been in a mental hospital for a week before when I was 18 over these fears that I didn't realize were the problem at the time. At the time, I thought it was like my relationship, my friendships. Like, I thought it was these fears that I wasn't addressing that were, my brain was, you know what I mean, trying to rationalize with the best it could. And it sent me spiraling. I didn't know that suppressing fears makes them more intense and gives them more power over you. And you may not know or realize that either. Or maybe you do and you're trying to figure out, how do you even face your fears? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like everyone says, face your fears, you gotta face your fears. And you're like, well, one, I don't want to. It's scary. Two, I don't really know how to, so it's really easy for me to go back to number one and say, I'm not gonna do it, it's scary. Here's the thing. Something that was a pretty big game changer for me was realizing, I don't remember where I heard this, but I was like, light bulb moment. Do you know how a ghost in a ghost movie, or even in real life, I believe in ghosts, shh, don't tell anyone, but ghosts, the idea of ghosts and ghost movies and horror movies, right, they're so scary because usually that character, that entity, is very mysterious. You cannot see it. Why do you think the idea of ghosts, ghouls, and goblins are so scary? Because they are hiding under the stairs. They're hiding in the places you don't know. They're at the bottom of your bed and then they disappear when you open your eyes. You can't go and investigate and bring yourself ease. Do you know what I mean? That's why the person in the horror movie always goes and opens the door and you're going, don't. If you were in that situation, you would too, because it literally brings you ease. Have you ever heard a creak and then you walk over to see what it is, or you turn the light on in the middle of the night to see what it is, so then you can go, oh, it's just the cat. Oh, it was the wind. Oh, it was nothing. It was the AC. I can go back to sleep. Uncovering it makes it less scary, right? You know, when you watch a corny horror movie and you're not scared and you can't really put your finger on why, and you're like, well, it's because I've seen the scary character so many times throughout the film, it's no longer mysterious and scary anymore. You know, the end of a scary movie, that maybe it was actually a good scary movie, right? But by the end of it, you're like, piece of cake, you're done. You're not scared anymore because that character has already seen and uncovered and figured it all out throughout the film, and now they're having their like hero moment where they, like, I don't know what they do, they get rid of it or whatever. And then maybe sometimes at the end, they didn't actually get rid of it, and then all of a sudden you're scared again because it's all mysterious and not tangible anymore. I hope you're understanding this analogy. The point is, the less you know about something, the less you face something, your fears, the scarier it is, the more mysterious it is, okay? So I have this fear, and every time it comes up, no. I have this trauma. Every time it comes up, no, right? So I can go on with my day, which sometimes, you know, if you're ruminating anxious thoughts, you have to do that. You know, there's a time, there's a place to deal with it, and then like ruminating and freaking out about it is not helpful. That's not what I mean. I'm not telling you to ruminate on your fears and ruminate on the things that scare you, which is confusing, and I'm still confused about that because I'm like, okay, when do I deal with it? And when you're not ruminating is the answer. When you're not in a total panic and ruminating, that's when you can sit down and deal with it. But sometimes okay, anyways, that's a whole other subject. Sometimes when you're triggered and you're ruminating, you can have breakthroughs, but like typically when you're ruminating, you actually want to just continue whatever you're doing throughout the day and let it subside, and then we can delve into why are you ruminating so much, you know, but that's a whole other thing. What we're talking about is fears specifically. So you're suppressing. What is that doing? That is literally creating that really good horror movie. I'm sorry, but you are currently directing a wonderful horror movie, and you don't want to live in a wonderful horror movie. Maybe you want to be a horror movie director. All right, then keep going. No, I don't. I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to be in a horror movie. And you're putting yourself in that really good horror movie by continuing to make your fears super mysterious and creepy, right? So if you can uncover them, if you can pull that blanket off the ghost and look it in the eyes, and when I tell you, don't let this discourage you, you're going to pull that sheet off, and it may be horrifying. It may be a really scary thing to look at. But now you can pick it apart. Now you can find its weakness. Now it's tangible, and it's no longer becoming more and more mysterious and dashing around your room at night and horrifying you. Do you know what I mean? The thing is, the initial pull of the curtain might be like, of the sheet rather, might be like, this is why I've been avoiding this. This is horrifying, but I need to remind you that if it was easy to heal, if it was, because a lot of people, healing, and it's like the sun shining and they're smiling. And of course, there's tons of moments where healing is like that and it's wonderful and you've bypassed something and you can move on. Yes, but there's tons of moments that are not like that. And that's the whole point. Do you know what I mean? It's like if healing was all beautiful sunshine, rainbows, and butterflies, everyone would do it and we'd all be healed. But there's a reason a majority of us are not. One, it's confusing. Like, how do you even heal? Like, there's no guidebook. You know, that's kind of the point of like, sorry, I just scratched my armpit, of like being human. There's no guidebook. It's like if you were to play a video game and they just told you exactly how to win the video game, what's even the point of playing? Do you know what I mean? So if you think of it as like, we're dropped in here as these little avatars, if we were given a guidebook on exactly how to live our life with the person that we are and the cards that we've been dealt, you'd be so bored. What would be the point of even turning the controller on and playing? Do you know what I mean? You'd be depressed. You wouldn't play that freaking game. That game would collect dust. You would waste money on that game. So it's like, when you are delving into your fears, figuring your anxieties out, figuring this out and wishing, I wish there was just a guidebook to tell me what to do. Keep in mind, like, it's part of the process. It doesn't always feel fun, but a way to kind of turn it around is like, let's turn that anxiety into like excitement. Like, you know, I'm a detective and I'm figuring. That's hard though, especially when you're in the moment pulling the sheet off and you're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Something I'm struggling with immensely is convincing myself that it is okay to be horrified right now. Because I keep telling myself, you know, you want to manifest your dream life, which is great. There's tons of awesome manifesting techniques that work, that are wonderful. But I keep shaming myself for being scared still and still figuring my stuff out when, like, in a transition period like this, or in a period where you're deciding you want to face your fears, you want to heal, you want to go to therapy, maybe you just feel like you maybe have, like, you need to be diagnosed, or maybe you want medication, you know what I mean? Whatever it may be. Okay, my point was, if you're in a transition period like this, the point is it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be scary. So stop telling yourself it's not supposed to and trying to revert back to that safety of like how your brain is wired, because that's the thing. It feels like life and death to your brain. Your brain does not care if you are happy, if you are fulfilled, if you are passionate, if your soul is doing what it's meant to. You know your soul's doing what it's meant to when you feel happy, passion, and joy, right? It doesn't care about that. It wants you to feel safe. And the thing is, when we're kids, even when we're adults, we face these traumas. We have this cord, and it's been severed. It's been cut with a freaking rusty chainsaw. It's got wires. Psst, psst. This is unhealed, right? We have an unhealed cord from childhood wounds or traumas that have happened to us, right? Every time that there's a blow to that cord, and that cord wasn't able to form in a healthy way, a healthy manner. And so now it's just sizzling and looking for something to attach to make it feel better, something to help you avoid these fears: a relationship, drugs, alcohol, TV, food, any something some addiction, something that is going to numb the wounds of this cord that is just flying around. Because the thing is, the things that we've convinced ourselves are going to fix our cord, right? Because when our cord is compromised, it feels like life and death. When you're a little kid, especially this goes back to childhood trauma and wounds, but when you're a little kid and you have your parents, you are somewhat vampiric, like a leech kind of. And that's a horrible way to describe it, but in some ways, like everything has good and bad to it, right? You need your parents to survive. You need them. So if there's some wounds that happened when you were younger, especially, those are the ones that will persist the most, right? Get you into these patterns. And then you avoid them and it just becomes worse and worse and worse. You need your parents to survive, right? And so instinctually, if this cord is compromised, it feels like life and death. And something like a relationship might make it feel like that cord isn't compromised anymore, like it's whole. But it is just not sustainable. It is simply a band-aid. And it may be keeping you in a comfortable state because you don't feel like you're going to die. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be that extreme. It doesn't have to feel like life and death, but like ultimately that is what your body and brain is feeling. And that's why you're having these triggering thoughts when you're single or when you're not addicted to something, you know, or when you're avoiding these fears. So how do we address this cord, right? We're never going to be able to go back in time and be a little kid again, or go back to our previous trauma and heal it and make it how it was like. Not that it's supposed to be made any kind of way, but we're never going to be able to recover it that way by like going back and reliving it, you know what I mean? But we can go back and take tools, you know, take our toolbox, take our wrench, find people, therapists, supportive friends that can help us build it back up. And it may not be perfect, do you know what I mean? But we have the supplies everyone has the supplies, even just in themselves, to repair it in a way that you don't have this flailing wire that's making you feel like you're going to die if you don't get your fix. Do you know what I mean? So that leads me into the whole, the more you avoid it, the scarier it gets. Well, to address it, you're going to have to let that wire flail for a while, because the thing is, there are behaviors that are not good for you that are calming that sizzle down and making you not feel like, panic, I'm going to die, right? But they are not good for you. They are band-aids that are not sustainable. They're going to pop off, and it's not going to make you happy and whole because it's not actually repairing anything. So you're going to need to go through a period where your wire is flailing, and you're going to need to remind yourself that you are safe. It is just these wounds that are making you feel like literally life and death. So you need to be compassionate with yourself, with the mistakes you've made or the things you've done that you think are wrong. You need to understand you had a flailing wire that was never addressed, right? That was making you feel like you needed to attach to things that were bad for you to feel better. But now you're going to be brave enough to pull that sheet off the ghost, let your wire flail and feel like, I'm going to die. And remind yourself that you're supposed to be feeling this, and that this isn't going to last forever, and that this is your period to make things less scary and less mysterious for yourself. I have another little analogy if it's not hitting home, which I hope it is if you're still watching, because it's really important to me, because I'm scared right now. Like I started filming this video because I needed to reiterate all of this to myself. So have that also be encouragement that like I'm speaking to you about this, having not even fully come out of it yet. Do you know what I mean? But I'm still understanding it and trying to reassure myself that like it's okay to be scared. That means there is movement. If you are comfortable, you are stagnant. If you are uncomfortable, there is movement, there is growth. So don't be scared of the uncomfortable. Don't be scared of the scariness, which is like ironic because of course you're going to be scared, but it's the whole point. Don't avoid it. So like a lot of people, this notebook has water damage, ignore it. there's a forest, right? There's 2 forests. So we have 1, 2 forests. And here's you and me. This is me. This represents all of us. Or maybe we're actually sad. Yeah, we're actually sad. Let me change that. We're sad. And we have 2 choices, so you can choose either one. There you are. You're sad. 2 choices. You can choose either one. And this choice looks really spooky initially, right? Now, I am an artiste, but not a drawing one, so please. This one is like the big moon's out. It's really spooky and scary and dark. This one is facing your fears. This one is pulling that sheet off that ghost. This one is addressing your trauma. This one is letting that cord flail, right? That's this first one. But when you first come in, now I'm not a good artist, but this is supposed to represent a creepy forest, okay? So then there's option 2, right? And initially option 2 looks like this. There's like cute little hearts in the sky. Like the clouds aren't even clouds, they're freaking hearts. There's lollipops sprouting out of the ground. There's just like birds flying. That's supposed to be a bird, but you get the point. There's just balloons flying, environmentally friendly balloons. Like the trees are just like the trees from the Lorax. The truffler trees, I forget what the frig they're called, right? So you're naturally gonna go, well, I want the lollipop, I want the heart skies, I want the butterflies flying around, right? Like, I'm obviously gonna take this path. Look at this one. Ooh, ooh, you like hear an owl hooing. It's freaking spooky. It's literally nighttime. You're all by yourself. Of course, you're gonna go, so again, have compassion for yourself, because of course, initially you're like, yeah, so this forest represents maybe food addiction or a bad relationship. And again, and I forgive me for my horrible handwriting. Take me for my words, not my drawing here. Drugs, alcohol. It all initially feels amazing, right? The things that we tend to feel really good with in the beginning are short term, right? And long term, not good. Now, this may represent therapy. Going to the gym. You know what I mean? Like, going to the gym is painful. It's hard being consistent with that when you're tired, you know? Addressing your trauma. It's scary. Ooh, ooh, that's freaking scary. You get the gist, right? Here's the thing. Even though this one initially feels horrifying and you maybe have to sit in that horror for a little bit and figure that out, it eventually turns into this forest, okay? It turns into the happy forest. Lollipops sprouting out of the ground and butterflies flying around and unicorns flying, right? Hearts as the sky. It eventually turns into that beautiful forest. Now, there may be a little creepy tree every once in a while that you still have to address, and that's totally normal and that's totally fine, and don't let that panic you and make you think like, uh-oh, I did it wrong, right? But there's also going to be little like guys on horses to come through and help you. You okay, young sir, young man? Do you need help? Hop on my horse, right? And that represents friends you make, or a therapist, or anyone you can rely on, right? And there's going to be tools to help you. Oh my goodness, like I'm not wearing the right shoes. All of a sudden, a nice beautiful pair of boots pop on that you can put on and get through the mud, right? Because sometimes you run into a little bit of mud here, a little bit of the spooky comes into the... You getting it? Now this one, it looks initially really great, and it always leads back to scary, dark scariness, right? Even if for years you're in this and it feels high, or for a long period of time, it always comes back to this, okay? And sometimes The more you keep choosing this, the scarier it gets when you get to the scary part of the forest, okay? And it gets like bigger and scarier when you keep ignoring it in your mind. My cat is screaming outside my door. Are you getting the point? It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be scared, but it's time to show up and sit in that for your own sake. Because if you're also sick of being scared all the time, the same way I'm sick of it. I was just laying in my bed last night. I've been saying this probably my whole life, even like I'm so tired of being so darn scared all the time and not understanding why and not wanting to let go of that sense of control. So someone's phone is ringing outside really loud in their car. Answer it. Anyways, Jesus. Anyways, if you are also tired of being scared, I hate to say it to you, but it may get a little scarier because you have to look at it. But in doing that, oh, the soothing, you're going to understand it now. You're not going to be throwing your random fears onto things that don't even make sense and ruminating and freaking out. Like maybe sometimes, you know what I mean? There's still other things. Maybe you have mental health things you have to deal with. Or, you know, there's some traumas that are going to take you time to get through and figure out. But also be gracious with yourself in that. Don't try to like be perfect or rush it. Or like, oh, 3 months from now, I'm going to be good to go. It's like maybe you'll be way better, but like things might still come up for you, and that's okay. It's best to not keep pretending it's not there, though. Do you know what I mean? And it's really hard to start a journey like this because you're like, well, what now? I don't even know what to do. Start researching. Start looking up shadow work journal prompts. Shadow work's like a general thing you may have heard before. If any of this is resonating, I think it would benefit you to look into it. And, you know, don't be so practical with it. It doesn't need to be this structured plan. Maybe once a week you sit down and do a shadow work journal prompt, and slowly but surely your fears are getting uncovered. And, you know, if you're too triggered one week to do it, then don't do it that week. You know, it doesn't need to be like, just chip away at it, man. Chip away at the things that are holding you back. And you need to understand that light would not exist without dark, that we are living a human experience. Maybe you believe in heaven, you know, we're going to die and everything's going to be perfect. Whatever you believe in, right now we're living a human experience. And in this human experience, good and bad exists, light and dark exists, and we must experience both of them. So it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? No, if you're a human being, you've been through bad experiences. That's literally part of it. You cannot look at me through this phone, through this camera, and say like, no, I've never been through a bad thing ever. Because being a human, both exist. Like, I don't want you to resent the dark. Do you know what I mean? I don't want you to suppress the dark and think it's so horrible at the same time. Because, and it is in a lot of ways, I'm not saying like, yay, darkness. That's not my point. But think of it like a dark hallway. You know, you turn the light switch on and it lights the whole room up. There's light. If there was no dark hallway, there'd be nothing for that light to fill. You know what I mean? There'd be no light switch to turn on and let the light come in. Literally, light would not exist without dark. The yin and yang, there's lots of truth to that. So don't spend your life like suppressing the things that have happened to you, anticipating more bad to happen to you, but also never anticipating any bad as well. Do you know what I mean? Because I was at a point like that as well, where I remember I got out of the mental hospital when I was like 18, right? And a few months later, I'm talking to my brother, and I was like, yeah, no, I will never let myself get to that mental state again. And he was like, you don't know that. And it like clicked, and it horrified me. And like, I knew he was right though, but I did not want to accept that. I was like, no, I have control. No, you don't. That's a whole other topic. We'll talk about letting go of control. I haven't figured that out yet, but I realized I was in this vicious cycle of being extremely anxious, and then I would feel happy again and like blank out that maybe for protection, and be like, that'll never happen again, right? And then I'd be anxious again and blank it out and be happy. It was this like cycle, right, of me just avoiding by getting into a relationship, food. Those were my addictions. And not, it all goes back to like not addressing that fear. Although it's scary, although it's dark, sometimes darkness can be your biggest teacher. And I'm not saying what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, because sometimes shitty things just happen, okay? And we don't need to turn it into anything. You know what I mean? Sometimes shitty things happen and you can turn it into something beautiful. You can write a beautiful song. You can make it your new career. You know what I mean? Like, you've seen people take horrible things that have happened to them and turn them into wonderful things. But don't feel that pressure as well. Sometimes things are just shitty. Like, they just happened and it was the worst and it changed you not for the better. So I'm not saying what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but what I am saying is if you keep ignoring that trauma and that darkness, that's not going to make you stronger. That's going to make you weaker. That's not good. And there are some lessons. There is something that you can pull out of it. Do you know what I mean? There's always something you can pull out of it. What I'm trying to pull out of mine right now is every time I am getting triggered, I am taking it as an opportunity to learn about it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I'm addressing my fears so much. I'm single. I'm doing my thing. I'm finally healing. I am launching into this next part of my life pretty rapidly, and it's quite horrifying. Like, I'm just saying that now and I'm horrified. I feel it in my stomach. I'm terrified. But I keep reminding myself that that feeling is normal and that that feeling was there in the past a lot. And I would suppress it and go back to whatever was comfortable and whatever would make me feel better. Like that, I would go down this forest path, right? So yeah, maybe it's a little scarier now because I'm going down the scary forest, but I'm waiting for it to get good, okay? And I know it's going to, because I'm finally addressing it. My point I was trying to make with that is, yes, I've been through things throughout my whole life, even recently, that I wish I did not have to go through, that have had a psychological effect on me, that are not fun to deal with. But if good and bad and dark and light are going to exist in this world, and it's a part of me being human, and I have two choices to make. One, I just keep going down this same vicious cycle, or one, I address it and I'm strong and I'm brave and I come out of it. I'm going to pick the one where I can come out of it. Do you know what I mean? And if a way I can come out of it is by saying, hey, every time I am triggered by this thing that happened to me, or I'm triggered because maybe I just have mental health issues, or I'm triggered because I'm scared and I'm finally addressing these wounds, if I can take that and somehow improve myself, somehow it makes me go, you know what, I'm finally going to start that therapy. You know what, I'm finally going to start that self-help book that I know is for me because I found it at the right time I needed it, and it's like addressing all the shit that I know I have going on. I'm finally going to accept that something bad happened to me so then I could start learning about that thing and healing from it. You know, I'm triggered right now, so I'm gonna look up a YouTube video about what I'm going through and read the comments and feel better. Do you know what I mean? It's pushing me to be better. It's pushing me out of my comfort zone. Why do you think people take like ice baths and cold showers, right? It's because it's literally conditioning them to be in uncomfortable moments like this, because it turns out being uncomfortable is good for you no matter what your brain is telling you. Your brain is hardwired to keep you safe and not dying, but that's not going to happen if you're uncomfortable. That's just what your brain's telling you is going to happen. So I challenge you this week, let's sit in it together. I'm horrified. Can you comment something and make me feel better? This is a cry for help. No. Let's be horrified together. Let's address something we know. A little inkling, or maybe we don't know, right? And this is going to trigger it and you're going to go, oh my gosh, like I just realized this thing has been affecting me for years and making me stay in these toxic patterns. You know, examine your patterns and try to trace it back to what's hurting it and address it, even though it's spooky and scary, right? We can do it. We can do it. We're going to do it. The last thing I want to talk to you about before I send you off, I hope I didn't scare you, but I also kind of hope I did, because you have to be a little bit scared to progress, right? To move forward, to heal. But the last thing I want to say is I also don't want you to have a disconnect with this fear, with this anxiety, because ultimately we need it. You're not going to get rid of it ever. The same way light and dark both exist, and you're never going to get rid of that dark. Like, it's always going to exist, whether you want it to exist or not, it's going to. You cannot get rid of fear and anxiety because you're a human being. Again, we are conditioned with that. And we really needed it a lot of the time back in the day, right? And we're still wired to be in that. Back in the day, like, you've probably heard this before, we needed it, like, to make sure a lion wasn't going to attack us, or right? So, like, you're not going to get rid of it, and you still need it today. You still need fear and anxiety to keep you out of bad situations sometimes. The thing is, when you actually need it, it's usually a little more quiet. And it's just like, hey, like, this isn't a good idea. And then when it's super irrational, it's really loud and screaming at you, right? Anxiety, fear, fear. That's how you can kind of tell the difference. Sometimes you're like, I'm really in danger. I'm feeling like I need to leave right now. When you're not in danger, you're like sitting in your bed and your brain's like screaming at you, and you're like, what? Nothing's wrong. But also I need you to understand that that is, again, picture your fear and your anxiety as like two little people. If you've ever seen Inside Out, the little people in Riley's brain, picture them as fear and anxiety in your brain, and they so desperately love you and want to keep you safe. But you've been through things, and things have happened, you know? There's a wire going crazy in there, like we said earlier. And they're trying to keep you safe, so they're panicking and they're hitting every freaking button on that panel, right? Anxiety's got Joy by the throat. He's like up against the wall. Is it Joy? Yeah, and Joy's like, help! You know what I mean? She's like, we need help. This person, she's in danger. And you're just not. So something I do is I will literally address it. I'll be like, babe, you know, give it a name, dress it up. They can wear sparkles, they can be pink, whatever you want. It can be Bob and Dylan. Bob Dylan, oh my god. Okay, it's Bob and Dylan. And you can be like, guys, like, I know you're like hardwired to keep me safe from lions and stuff. And I know you love me so much and you're literally trying to make it so I don't die. But I'm sitting in my bedroom right now. Like, it's a bill from the mail. Like, I have to call the doctor and make an appointment. Like, it's not life and death right now. Okay, and maybe it even is a really scary situation that you're dealing with. But you're like, hey, I'm safe right now, though. And I need you to just give me a little hug and relax and go to sleep. And I'm going to tuck you in. I'm going to give you warm tea. Okay, there you go. I'm okay. And I love you. Don't hate your fear. Don't hate your anxiety. They love you so much. They can come with you, but they just can't drive, okay? Do you know what I mean? That's from Big Magic, this amazing book. She said she lets, like, her fear and anxiety come on her road trips with her. She's just a little bit like, you know, it's that friend that's like, you love them, they have good intentions, but they don't know what the hell they're doing. So you're like, you're not allowed to drive because you'll crash the car, but I love you so much and you're always going to be a part of my life. So you sit there and you just zip it. When I need you, we'll know. Give me a hug. Good night. Okay, don't be disconnected from it. It's okay. But I also understand. So much so that I'm terrified right now as I speak, which is showing me how well I mask it. Wow. Maybe that's something you do too. We need to talk about masking. Okay. I love you so much. We're going to do this. We're going to do this together. Okay?